Today we're going to learn about the difference between used to and would. We use used to and would to talk about past habits. For example, I used to play football when I was younger, or I would play football when I was younger. If we use past simple, like I played football when I was younger, it's a bit different because when we use used to or would, we're talking about repeated actions. If I say I used to play football when I was younger, I'm saying that I played it a lot of times, or I used to eat a lot of pizza when I was younger. I ate pizza a lot of times. But if you say I played football when I was younger, or I ate pizza when I was younger, it sounds like you only played football once, which is one time. So basically, we use used to and would to talk about actions of the past that happened many times. Now let's see the difference between them. We use used to with action verbs and stative verbs. Action verbs are verbs like jump, eat, talk, swim, and stative verbs are like have, love, like, need, know, seem, think, remember. So verbs where there is no action. You don't move. For example, you can say, I used to play with an action verb, or I used to think with a stative verb. However, with would, we can only use action verbs, like I would play, I would sleep, I would eat, I would run. But you can't use would with stative verbs, so you can't say I would think or I would have. Remember that we're talking about would for past actions. We're not talking about would as a modal like in the conditionals. In that case, when we're using the conditionals, you can say I would have, but not to talk about past events. So that is the first difference, that you can only use would for action verbs. In normal conversation, we use used to more than would. We would use would in a story, for example. If there is a story about a little bear, you could say, the little bear would always go for a walk with his family. You see it more in like stories because it is a little bit more formal, but in normal conversation, people usually use used to more. The negative of used to is didn't used to. You've got to be careful because when you put it in the negative, you don't write the D. So it's didn't use without the D, to. I didn't used to go to the park with my family, or I didn't used to play football. And then in the question form, it's the same. You don't add the D. It's like with a normal verb when you put it in a question form in past simple with did. It doesn't have the D anymore. Did you used to play with your brothers? Or did you used to play football? Without the D. And we don't normally use would in negative form and question form. Some books say that it's grammatically correct, others don't, so I would recommend looking at your book if you're going to do an exam to see what that says, but in normal conversation we don't normally use it. And the last thing to mention about used to is that when you say used to, like I used to play football when I was younger, it sounds like before I played football, but now I don't. Like I used to play with baby dolls when I was younger, but now I don't. Or I used to eat a lot of fast food, but now I don't. And when it's in negative, it's the opposite. If you say, I didn't used to like broccoli, it's saying that now you do. Or I didn't used to know how to drive, but now you do. So it's basically talking about past events, and it's saying that before I did something, but now I don't. Or if it's in negative, before I didn't do something, and now I do. So it's always like the opposite of what you do now. So the main things that you need to remember before we finish is that we use would and used to talk about actions of the past that we did many times. Like I played football many times, so I used to play football. The second thing we need to remember is that would is only with action verbs, and used to is with action and stative. In normal conversation, we normally use used to. And be careful when you're making the negative form, because it is I didn't used to without the D, and the question form is did I used to without the D as well.